back to the channel. I am the Darklight Emissary, and this video is going to be an overview of a few of the worlds in the Imperium. I thought this would be a good one because I feel like one of the biggest stereotypes of the setting that is often wrong is that every single world is a nightmare of death in the Imperium, and this is very far from the truth. Despite the opening of any book telling you that the Imperium is the bloodiest regime imaginable, that doesn't mean every world is a death world, or like Terra, where it's one gigantic hive city, basically using its citizens as forms of fuel to survive. Not every world is a dense hive city, or inundated with Gothic architecture. One of the things that sometimes happens in the games, or lore and books, is showing too much of or describing too much of similar architectures and planet types. Or for example, some books are called Bolter-porn because it seems the story simply set up a boilerplate battle between some space marines as heroes versus some very obviously evil looking chaos marines with spiky bits all over their armor. Not every world is a forge world of factories day and night running, and not every world is hell-bent on killing its populace, though those do exist too. Sprinkled throughout the stories I've read over time are many worlds that have more personality than that, or more peaceful than you'd think, or any other number of traits. And the first world I want to talk about is called Gudrin. This world is mostly a world of great forest, mixed with open fields and farmland. There are also some city areas, but imagine a denser European city for style in the bigger cities, with even some canal-type systems and many merchant shops lining brick and stone streets and levels in the cities. Out in the countryside are many estates, owned by the rich nobles of the world, and dotted between the estates are smaller towns and hamlets. If a world could be called idyllic in the Imperium, this would be one of them. It still was the site of a chaos cult in the Eisenhorn trilogy of books, where the world was introduced. But other than the conflict that brought, for a time, Inquisitor Gregor Eisenhorn, who those books follow, bought a estate himself there for a long time. From what I recall from reading the book, I don't recall anything super horrifying about this world itself. It seemed like a very good place for people to live moderately good lives, and very well for the wealthy. The next world, also from the Eisenhorn books, is called Hubris. There isn't too much to this world. It's a inhospitable ice ball for 11 of its 29-month year. So it kind of trends towards a more grim area to live, but 99% of the population chooses to enter a cryogenic sleep during this period. And the leftover 1% lives in a giant dome known as the Sun Dome. It harbors a giant artificial plasma ball working as a sun that is on 24/7 to counteract the perpetual twilight and cold outside of the dome. These 1% serve as caretakers who make sure the rest of the population's cryo machines don't fail, and they will patrol the areas between the cryo chambers with great torch lamps and things like that they carry between different sites as they check over things. They seem as a culture to somewhat worship the sun as an aspect of the God Emperor, from what I can recall reading. The next world, called Ichan, also in the Eisenhorn trilogy of books. Not too much was described in this book about this world, but the reason it sticks out to me is one of the most interesting things about this world was how its vegetation mostly all had some form of bulbous vegetation that had these bulbs filled with gas that allowed them to drift around on the planet's winds. And so there would be like these large groups of these plants that would move with the wind wherever it would take them. And then there was these giant harvesting machines seemingly used to collect some sort of sap from the plants or vegetation on this world. And so I just found that interesting. I thought it was a distinct thing that I noticed. The world itself didn't really have too much else that is told about it, though. And then the last world is one called Tanith. This world is mentioned and brought up in the Tanith First and Only book series, which chronicles the battles and stories of the regiment by that same name. Tanith was a world of great forests, and these forests would often uproot and migrate. Because of this, the Tanith troops from this world produced some of the best scout and recon forces in the entire Imperial Guard. Having to maintain the right sense of direction and present location in a shifting forest tended to breed a certain caliber of navigation, not seen in many other soldiers the Imperium has in general. These trees are called knotwood trees. One other interesting note is that Tanith government was run democratically in several city-states. Presently, the world of Tanith was destroyed by a chaos invasion, and all that remains are the Tanith soldiers and some carved knotwood objects that have made their way throughout the galaxy, usually found in wealthy collectors' areas or as tables. The Tanith forces themselves also carry many knotwood carving objects, or carved objects, I should say, and artifacts with them. And curiously enough, something I didn't write down but that comes to mind is that Trazyn the Infinite actually kept some Tanith troops as a part of his collection. They were that rare of a soldier for Imperial Guard. And then lastly, this isn't really a world, but a location. It was in one of the Ravener books, and I do not have it handy, but the place is a trade port hidden away in an asteroid. This trade post isn't owned by the Imperium, so plenty of mercenaries, pirates, both human and alien, go here to trade and be hired for jobs. Interestingly, the port security seemed to be some sort of clone troop or other weirdly tall type of security, bipedal, humanoid or alien of some kind. I don't remember exactly their description. And they would use a high-powered baton that may have had some sort of power field to enforce the rules of the port. They were definitely good enough to destroy things. The rules were that two people could engage in combat at the port, but only with, I think it was certain melee weapons, basically certain grade of weapons. And during a confrontation, one of the combatants deployed a captured demon or monster of some kind. The security forces of this world immediately grouped up on and killed this unsanctioned form of weapon, but they left the deployer alone to his demise at the hands of the enemy mercenary that had been hunting him. I just find it interesting to see a free trade area of the free of Imperial influence with its own rules and things like that. There's not too many of those depicted in the books. And that is a bit about a few worlds in the Imperium. All these worlds come from the works of the author Dan Abnett, one of the best authors in this setting. If you are new to this universe, I highly recommend his Tanith First and Only books, as well as his Eisenhorn trilogy of books. They tend to show you a bit more than just battlefield for space marines to fight in, give you more of a flavor for what the Imperium at large feels like for some of the more regular people in it, as well as some of the more interesting people in it as well, like rogue traders and mercenaries, things like that. As always, please like and subscribe for more content to see. This is a bit of a short one, but not everyone has to be a super long one. There wasn't too much on these worlds. I might do a bigger video on some more detailed worlds later, like some of the home worlds for some of the Space Marines are fun to talk about as well. Leave a comment with a correction or a question or request for a video subject in the future. I think next up, I will be tackling the Chaos Gods themselves. It'll be good to talk about each of them. Bring your light into the dark places, and I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are. Thank you.